Hi, I'm Michelle. This is my so-called handmade life. I have a blog by the same name, and I am Mamatronic on Ravelry. There is a group on Ravelry for my so-called handmade life, and I have any notes or links, anything I mention in the episode, I have it listed there in the episode threads, and you can comment to my questions, because I always ask questions of you guys. You can comment there on YouTube in the comments or on my blog in the comments. And if you comment, just be prepared. I might talk about what you say or whatever your response is, because you help shape our conversation and where it's going. So I appreciate when you guys have something to say. Last week I was in my garden trying to show you one of the places I hide out. It was super windy, and I'm sorry. It didn't even sound that bad on my computer as I edited, but I rewatched some of it on YouTube before I filmed this just to kind of remember what I talked about, and it was terrible. The wind was so bad. Sorry. Yeah, I have a mic with a muff that goes on it and all, but the batteries, I didn't have the right batteries, and the other mic has a corroded battery cell. So anyway, that's just what we got. But that's one of the places where I go to chill out and kind of disconnect or decompress. And what we were talking about was a need to kind of get away from things like media and the pressure in social media and just news media, all of it. It's very anxiety producing at times, and we all have to kind of escape and do nothing. And you can see 2 episodes ago I talk about a link to Jenny Odell. She's got a book. It looks really good. Little Kitten recommended a podcast, Making Sense with Sam Harris, episode 71, where he interviews Tristan. I can't remember Tristan's last name, but he's part of a group working to get sort of a code of ethics for apps and websites, because they've perfected with their AI how to produce this dopamine hit in people where we kind of go back for more and more and more, like a slot machine. And it was kind of creepy. He discussed how Twitter, when you first log on, there's this few seconds pause before it shows you your notifications and things. They actually extended that pause after study to exactly the amount of time it takes to get a bigger hit on your, like a dopamine hit that would addict you to it, like a slot machine. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? What's it going to be? Like the slots turning, and then ta-ding, you see your notifications or whatever. It's very manipulative and possibly damaging for us. Then I heard Andrew Yang in an interview, and he mentioned Tristan and his work, and he was talking about, he was asked questions about breaking up tech corporations or not, and he was saying just different things he thought needed to happen to rein in the effects of technology. And he did mention the depression and anxiety, especially in younger people, produced by apps and things, social media. So it's just reinforcing that thought in me, oof, we don't need to get too into this. And then someone sent me a link to an article about bone spurs forming at the base of kids' skulls. They look like horns, you know, because of all their looking down at their phone. My chiropractor thinks that's dubious, but he does know that we have destroyed our spines, or we are destroying them with the way we sit too much and sit to look at devices. So it's all just reminding us we don't need to, we don't need to go there all the time. We need breaks. We need to get up and move some more. So, Jen had said she was amazed at all the things I had growing in my garden, which surprises me, Jen, because I don't think it's that varied. I have a lot of herbs and then just a few plants, flowering plants. Not a lot grows here vegetable-wise with ease. It requires a certain amount of shade that I just don't have back there, and I would have to come up with some solutions for that I haven't addressed yet. Also, water. It's so hot here. I just don't water it enough. We do have a well, and we were pumping the water. My husband had a whole little irrigation system for it, but the well pump broke, and so it's just been one of those things on a to-do list thing. It's not super important. We had other stuff around our home we needed to do. But Jen's garden is hopping, and that's a place she likes. Her yard, it's a place where she could go to do nothing. She spends a lot of time with her knitting and her dogs, you know, obviously, when she's just kind of chilling out and doing nothing. But her husband likes to work her garden, and she processes all the bounty from it, which, I mean, if you have enough to can and stuff, you've got a good garden. I've never produced enough. Okay, one year I had enough tomatoes that I canned and made tomato sauce. That was really good. But other than that one year, not really. We just, you know, we could keep up. We ate a lot of tomatoes a few times, but I just didn't really try this year. I think I have one lone straggly tomato plant, and most everyone has already had their tomato crop, so it takes a little more effort here than I'm willing to give it. So Brenda had commented, you know, I told her, well, when you go to do nothing, if you're listening to podcasts and you run the risk of being offended, mean them saying something, and she was disappointed with a racist comment made in one. I was like, maybe just being alone, you know, is always something you have. For her, she explained her reasoning is she doesn't really want to be alone with her thoughts all the time because she tends to worry for her younger family members, especially the men in her family. And she's worried, I'm not sure where you live, Brenda, but she's worried about them getting into trouble or problems because of skin color, and then not feeling comfortable with the authorities, or that law enforcement will target them and they'll be in danger because of their color. And this really worries her. So Brenda, I get why you don't want to be alone with your thoughts all the time. You want the noise to drown out some of those worries, and for sure, I understand that. You know, sometimes we have just to drown the noise out a little more than others in times in our life, depending on what's going on. And knitting and listening to knitting how-tos or podcasts and things, that it's a good way. It was always, has been a good way for me to drown out worries. Let me show you guys what I've made. I finished my Kia socks done in Mockingbird Fiber Company's Monica's Apartment colorway. That's from their Friends collection they did. I got one other Friends yarn. It was Chandler, but I haven't done anything with it yet. These came out really well. You can see this is Dawn Henderson's Kia socks. So you see the little equality signs. That came from that conversation on racism. This is a free pattern on Ravelry. And it's fun because it's not just a boring sock pattern, if you find that boring. It's got a little interest, but once you've got your pattern established, it's super easy. You don't even have to look at the pattern itself. You can tell where to make your purl ridges and where not. And it's really cute. And I saw quite a few that were shorter cuffed, and that's what I wanted. So I always have trouble when I'm going to do a shorter sock. I say I'm going to make a short one this time because I like this about this length with like Converse, and or, you know, if you wear clogs and it's cold in the winter and you want a nice sock with a heel. I have all of that, you know. I get going and I get to about here and the color's just so pretty, I want to keep going, and I always end up making a long leg. Well, I forced myself, you know. I have a lot of socks at this point. I have quite a few longer handmade socks. I made a short leg for these. And I consoled myself with not getting to make them long, you know, just because I love the color and watching it. I think I have enough of this left over to make some true, like, Rose City Roller shorty socks. And I even have enough of this yellow to at least do the cuff. Someone just put out a sock pattern recently, and it has like a cushioned back so that it won't slip down in your shoe. I'm interested in that because I have trouble with all my really short socks. After a while of wearing, they loosen up around the cuff. And I'm talking about like store-bought athletic socks. They loosen up around the cuff and then they want to slip down my foot as I'm walking or running or whatever. and I wondered how would shorty socks work. I've never actually knit any, but I have enough of this left. I think I could do that and it would be fun. So that's one thing that's been finished. So then I started on a different pair, and it's from yarn I received from my friend. Where is it? I've never used Regia yarn before. Raquel sent me this Regia Perfect, I believe. I think it's perfect because it's meant to make two exactly matching pairs of socks. And so I don't know if you can really tell how this looks. I did a little slip stitch thing just for interest on it, and it kind of has to be on this to show well. So you see there's kind of a little, you can see the little slip stitches. With every time the color, as soon as it changed, I just slipped a stitch, and I did 2 rows where I slipped every other stitch, and then I knitted like normal, a normal vanilla sock. So this one has the cuff color and then the stripes. You probably all know about this yarn, and I'm just new to it. I think it's got 7 stripes here, and then it will go to just a brown foot. And so it's made that any size foot you could do this. So I'm knitting the smallest size, so I ended up with the cuff color. It's actually a pretty thick cuff. But if it were a wider sock for a larger leg or foot, it would be shorter. A shorter cuff. These stripes would be smaller, and there would just be more of the brown. So that's interesting. That's a neat way to do it. And it starts with this yellow thread. You pull it out, you cast on, and you knit. You'll get, I'm on the last stripe right now of color, and then it'll be a brown foot. You knit the foot, and then because this is a size small, there'll be quite a bit of brown left. You just go ahead and keep winding out of the center of the ball. And then you come to another yellow, this is my understanding, another yellow strip, or it'll just be this color again. And all of a sudden it'll be the same thing. So I can just, clip my yarn and then start my second sock, and it should be exactly matching. I didn't say that in the very best way, but whatever, you know what I mean. So Regia is a German yarn, I believe. And this is a really, I can't tell. This is a brown color, but it's almost eggplant-like. It's almost a purple brown. So it's really pretty, and I like these colors all together. That's a neat combination of colors. It works, but I wouldn't think of all those colors together. So anyway, I really appreciated finally using this yarn. It's one of those that people say it's a workhorse yarn. Really good commercial yarn for good, sturdy, lasting socks. And I can see why they say it, because it has that feel like they'll be around forever. So that has been really enjoyable to work on. I've been doing that when we watch Dark. The second season came out, and we had to rewatch the first season to remember what happened, because we're like the worst about starting to get tired as we watch TV. And plus I'm knitting, so I'm half distracted. And there's a lot of back and forth in time on the show, so we rewatched the first season, and I'm all good. I know just what's happening, and now I'm ready for the second season. My husband slept through this rewatch of the first season, so he still doesn't know what's going on. He's constantly saying, now, who is this? I'm like, ah! But it's kind of cool. I'm working with my Regia yarn from my friend who lives in Germany. I'm watching a German show. I have to do these socks because it's subtitled. I can't read subtitles and constantly be looking down at a pattern. So, I asked you guys what y'all are up to, what you're watching or reading. No one has answered me, but do tell me. I finished The Changeling. It was different. It was very much fairy tale-like, like modern mythology. But it did have, and this is surprising, this subject has come up a lot in my life recently. I don't think that's accidental. It has a lot to do with race. It was good, though. Victor LaSalle wrote it. It was good. It was totally surprising. I knew nothing about it. It was just $1.99 and had good reviews, so I bought it. And late in the night, I'm reading in my Kindle, and one book ends and I have nothing to read, when I wake up during the night, if my back's hurting or my neck or head, if I read, I fall right back to sleep. If I don't, for some reason, I'm just up for hours. So I just loaded up this book and started. And anyway, it was good. We watched Forever with Maya Rudolph and Fred Armisen. That was really surprising. There's language in that show. Just be aware. But man, was that so different and unusual. I really enjoyed that show. I really did. And so now I'm reading iRobot. It's another one of those purchases I made for 99 cents. And that's, of course, a classic. I don't know when it was written, but it's really funny because it's supposed to be years and years in the future. And it was 2013 is when all this crazy stuff where people drive jet cars and robots have done so much on Earth, and then they've finally been banned, you know. It was supposed to be the distant future, and it was 2013. That's funny to me. It must have been written in the 60s. But anyway, I mean, that's a classic, so I'm glad I'm reading it. Okay. So I asked you guys nostalgia and knitting projects, or any kind of craft project. Does nostalgia drive what you make? It totally drives what I make. It drives a lot of what I do. I just love remembering good times and people and things. And I also think things stick in my mind. I have a good memory about some things. Obviously, I had to rewatch the first season of Dark before I could watch the second one, so I don't have good memory about everything. But I do cherish certain times in my life. And and I talked some about that last week. So Nancy shared that she likes to make doilies, crochet them, because her mom did it, and it makes her think of her mom. She feels close to her. I get that. I can see why you would want to do that, Nancy. My mom never crocheted. My grandmother did. But I've never made a doily. I saw on Fruity Knitting, their most recent episode, they had, I think it was Heavenly Classy Knits. That's her Instagram, or maybe her Ravelry name. Her name is Tatiana Carr, and she makes dresses from doily patterns. Check those out, Nancy, if you haven't seen it already. They are fine. I might, you know what? I think I have some right here on my iPad. I have a bunch of stuff on my iPad. Look at this dress made from, this is on the Fruity Knitting website. Go to their website to look at it if you want a good image. This isn't good. They're really good. Their show, it's a real show. I mean, it's not like some cheesy podcast like I'm doing. They and they have a good Patreon program. Totally worth being a patron of. Look at that one. And so she's doing doilies, and she's using it for the top, some of the top, the forming the top, but the skirt is absolutely the doily, and it's usually like just the straight up pattern. But there's one she shows in the episode, so you got to go watch this episode, where she actually paints into part of the design. It almost looks feather-like, little gray. She painted on dye onto parts of this dress. It's just fine. And Andrea said it would make a good wedding dress, some of her dresses, and they absolutely would. They're beautiful. So, and I do have a friend who made her wedding dress, and it was gorgeous. She knitted it. Okay. So, doilies. I'll show you some of my doily inspiration here. I've got a pile of things, like a lot of it made by my grandmother, great-grandmother. My great-grandmother knit doilies, lots of them. She crocheted. She didn't knit. I'm sorry. She didn't knit. She darned socks and she crocheted. She sewed. She quilted. She gardened. She cooked. She baked. She did a lot of things. These are little baby bonnets that were worn by my mom or my uncle. I don't know who wore this one or this one. You can see there's little rosettes that she made right here. And it's satin lined. It's very yellowed with age. This had matching booties with, again, the same little rosette pattern crocheted into them. I don't know if you can see that. It's hard because of the light is waning. It's dark outside, or almost dark, and the lights in this room aren't great. So she was a crochet master. This looks like, I think it's just a little lid to go on a bowl or a pot, but it's really sweet. These are the type that I like to put on the wall. I framed one doily, and I did it with a glass backed frame, clear, so that the color of the wall, which is similar to this, it's a blue-green, could show through in this room. I've shown it before here when I did it. It was one of the little house projects that was from Nostalgia. I'm just going to get it and show you again. That was a nostalgic thing because it totally made me think of my great-grandmother. This was it. And so with the glass behind it and in front of it, stretching it out, you can see the color of whatever behind it shining through. And it's like a, not turquoise, it's like a blue-green wall. It looks really nice. She has a lot of these. Here's one with little flowers and leaves. I have tons that a cousin gave me after his mother passed away, and they went through all of his parents' things. I had a big box full of things that my great-grandmother made. This is in really good shape. It's still very stiff from being starched and her using it. Well, actually I said it was in good shape, but it's got a hole. I have it's a little more retro and mod looking to me, a coverlet that's in really good shape. There's no holes or anything in it. It's just a little yellowed that she made, and I really want to use it on my bed, but I just can't with the animals that I have. They just, you know how they do. They get up on the bed and they burrow and snuffle around, and yeah, this would happen immediately. So I'm saving it for one day, maybe someday. But it looks so nice, kind of like the one I hang on the wall, the color of the sheets coming through. And we do have like a teal wall in that room, and it just looks really cool. The sheets are the same color. So one day. What I want to do is make a doily rug, and I might just use a doily pattern. And Nancy, that's how I would like to use doilies. Use them as a rug, which I've seen people do with, say, holding 3 strands together, or a bulky, super bulky weight yarn. The closest thing I've done to a doily is this. It is a knitted mat, and it's like a doily photo mat, but it's knitted. I made it for my grandmother for this picture of my children when they were little. Weren't they sweet? Oh, they were sweet babies. And I thought she would like it because it made me think of her, and I enjoyed working on it. She did. She loved it. Another thing from that era that I've done, a project that makes me think of retro things. You know, my grandparents had a lot of fabrics, like old sheets and pillowcases with this retro type fabric. This is like a tablecloth. That always makes me think of them. I want to make a quilt with old dish towels and cloths one day, but I used new dish towels that I found at Anthropology on sale. They always have dish towels and stuff on sale there. These were really busy. They had a lot going on. Busy pattern, applique birds on it, and the pom-poms. They were really, to me, perfect for little retro cafe curtains. And so I sewed loops on them. And there's another one for a little window in the house. And they make really cute curtains. In fact, the rod is just a piece of bamboo, natural bamboo. That was a fun little nostalgic type project. I had another pair that was made with this dish towel that I used before we got the thing with all the plants on it in our window in our kitchen. So that's some nostalgic type projects. I've also, this is a terrible looking pot holder. It's super burnt and old. I've had this since I got married. So like 25 years, super old, 25 years, just acrylic. My grandmother gave it to me, but I don't even think she made it. I think her friend did, but she had a lot of these that she made. She had a loom, which she gave me, and I made some, the woven kind, and this is crocheted, but I made some woven ones. I was going to show you guys, and I realized I gave it away to somebody, so I don't have it anymore. But I used this kitchen cotton. It was these two colors to make, you know, it looks like a basket weave dish pot holder. And you can make two and sew them together, and they're super thick, or just one. Another thing I've done is dish towels, and that is a very nostalgic. Thought I saw a moth around the yarn. That made me very nostalgic for my grandmother and great-grandmother had kind of intricate pot holders, kind of like that doily with all the stuff on it. Yeah, some of their pot holders were like this, just full of little rosettes and things. So I made dishcloths, like this one is from a pattern in 52 Weeks of Dishcloths by, I don't know if that's bright enough for you, but on Knit Picks, I have the book. But I was running out of time. I wanted to make a little kind of a vintage kitchen package for my daughter for her wedding. And so I was making dish towels, dishcloths, and I started running short on time. So I just took 3 strands, 3 or 4 of this sugar and cream multicolored cotton, held it together, and I did a compressed version of the pattern. But because I was holding so many strands, it gave the look, but in a short time. It just was a very quick knit. So I should have had a lot more of these little bow ties or butterflies. But as is, it just worked out really well. And it was fast. This was a good one too. That's a good design. So anyway, there were 4. And I did it with a set of Pyrex bowls. I got the vintage bowls. I may have had to go 2 different sources for them. You can see the whole gift package there. It's the nesting kind of pastel colored bowls, but it's the older kind from the 40s or pre-40s. And I have some, but they're like the thinner. They're not the same. They're just, you know, if you're into the vintage thing, they're not the same. They're fine for me, but I got her those. I found them online, and they were just without any flaws. And then a little vintage recipe, vintage looking recipe tin, and then those towels. And they use those towels all the time. Every time I go, they're in use, and they're folded neatly. You can tell they've been used, but also taken care of. They're not as ragged out and destroyed as the stuff we burn, you know, in our kitchen. That's another kind of nostalgic project that I worked on. I have one in the future I'd like to do. Some of you have probably tried. Oh, here's a dishcloth I made my grandmother. It's faded now. It was a brighter color, but she rarely ever used it. She hung it on her oven because she thought it was pretty, and she didn't want to use it because she didn't want it to get messed up. This is from the Mason-Dixon knitting book, the first book. It's full of neat stuff for your house. But macrame. My mom has this macrame purse she made, and I have it now. It's really cute with their little beads, and she sewed a lining in. It's not any fancy lining job. I actually think I did a better sewing job on the lining of my fake agamo bag. But you see this retro fabric? I just love it. This is like jute, I believe, rope. It puts off fuzz, little, you know, flyaway bits every time you use it. But I just love this. It makes me think of her. It's the same type of rope you would use to make one of those owls that people all had hanging in their house in the 70s, or a plant hanger. You see those a lot now. I would like to learn some macrame. I don't know about it. I did want to do a big wall hanging a while back, but now I've seen them so much, I'm kind of meh about it. But plant holders, yes, and something like this would be fun to do. Maybe a deeper bucket bag. When I think, though, of my mom, that led me to another nostalgic type project. This is a little acrylic sweater, and she wore it all the time. Little cabled sweater. This is what she wore. I mean, anywhere we went, she was wearing it. So when I was a little girl, my eye was about level with this pocket. And, you know, anywhere I was, if I looked around, oh, where was my mom? Oh, there's her pocket. And I could hold her pocket and follow her. So anyway, it's just kind of special to me, any memory I have of her, anything of hers. I don't have a lot that was hers, so what I do have, I love. But I don't like wear it a lot or anything because, you know, I don't know, it was hers. I want to take care of it. I'd have worn it, but also, let's be honest, it's not really warm because it's not real wool. So it's either hot here or it's very cold to me. One thing I did make, though, that made me think of her was this a day. You know this a day pattern by Cerelia Rose. I think, Katinka, you're working on one now, or you finished it. This is such a fun knit. And it's one of her big patterns. Like everyone has made one of these, it seems. I did this, I think a friend of mine online did one in Knit Picks Bravo yarn, and that's what I decided to use. So it was also on sale. It's fully acrylic. You can see all the pills on it. I mean, I've had this for years now, and I wear it like a house coat in the winter when I'm cold. It's basically like my Brenda Lee's brown sweater off the closer, you know. She always wore that brown sweater. But it's a soft acrylic, and when it's on sale, it's a very, very affordable. This was maybe $13, $12, $20 to make this sweater, which isn't bad for a bulky weight sweater. That's pretty good price. Anyway, nostalgic the whole time I made it, thinking about my mom wearing her little 70s cabled sweater everywhere we went. It was just one of those sweet things. One more like nostalgic type project was my bulky easy one. I did this not long ago. Big and oversized because it makes me think of the 90s when I was in high school and I wore all my brother's sweaters and shirts. Really big and oversized. Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
Recording?
Yep.
Okay. I'll be quiet.
Come here. You can't get on the film because this room is totally full of
I
stuff.
see that.
But can you think of anything, any project around the house or anything you've ever made or done
Yeah.
that you did because it made you nostalgic for another time?
Project?
Yeah, like, okay, I did this, they're going crazy. So, like, I made this, it's nostalgic because it makes me think of Nanny, but it's like a recent project. And, like, also these booties, they made me think of her. She always knitted little slippers for us. I mean, crocheted them in the Christmas, so that's what that makes me think of. Can you think of anything you've done like that?
Some, I don't know. I mean, the projects I've made, I've made because you wanted me
You
to.
made them because I made you make them?
Yeah. Not
You're
because-
my project!
not because
You're my
I had-
project! I make you
Yeah.
make them.
Yeah, yeah.
Like what? What's a nostalgic project we've had?
I mean, we built that headboard together, but that wasn't really nostalgic.
No, it's cool and retro, but it wasn't.
I'm making that background for you out of the.
Yeah, not
I
nostalgic.
mean, that's
though.
not really nostalgic, though.
You're just not very nostalgic
No,
or
I'm
sentimental,
not.
are you?
No, not really.
You're just sort of a robot.
Yeah. I just
Okay.
do what you tell me to do.
Well, go recharge. Go back to your charging port, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, one more. We go to the beach a lot. Well, we haven't really as much since the flesh-eating virus is so bad in the water, I know. It's not so great to live where I live. But one year I walked with some friends down there before I married. I was 18. And one of them, it was after a big storm, and one of them found, in fact, it was after a hurricane had happened. It didn't hit our area, but a lot of stuff washed up. Big, perfect, huge shell. We usually don't find whole shells like this at our beaches. It's just not the kind of area on the Gulf where most everything's chewed up by the time we get it. Here's one. This is chewed up, but I just love this. This is a recent find. I just love the way it looked. So I did a blog post on this once. I have a lamp, and the base is a big cylinder, a glass cylinder, and I filled it with shells from our beach, the ones we always go to near us. And it was like a lot of them were found after a hurricane, and they were beautiful. The colors were good and sharp and strong. They weren't as weathered, and they weren't polished. It wasn't the junk you buy at a seashell shop. It was the real deal, and we found it. So that was kind of cool. And then I have jars all over with rocks from different things we go to. Like if it's a place where you can take rocks. I don't like take rocks from Machu Picchu, but these are shells and rocks from Pebble Beach. So I've got pebbles in there, little clams. The shells are completely different, most of them, from what we have. Anyway, this isn't really a project, except that it kind of is, because I've got them from all over, and they're just little special rocks and stuff, you know. I collect these kind of things when we go hiking and stuff. Oh, here's another one. Different type of project again, not knitting. Plants. My mom always had azaleas. Not azaleas, sorry. She did have azaleas. African violets, sorry. And she always had two, at least, on this little table. And she could make them grow and bloom. She obviously fertilized them. I don't fertilize mine enough, and so there's no blooms on this. And you can see some nasty little straggler plants, but I try to always have some, though, because they make me think of her. I always have one or two. What you need?
I do have one question.
What's that?
So if you ask me to do a project and then I say I'm going to do it, and then way later, like years and years later, I finally get around to doing it.
Does that count as nostalgic? Yes.
Because I finally remembered.
Yes, because you finally remembered to do it.
Okay,
That
well,
is
then
nostalgic.
I have a lot of those then.
Yeah, that's the truth. Gosh, it's nostalgic for both of us.
Yeah.
That's funny. Since I was bragging on my great-grandmother's handwork, she actually made this quilt. This quilt, okay, I'm going to show you. This is a rotten, a ruined piece. It's really threadbare in some places and torn up. This was just considered like junk. My grandparents kept it in the back of their car to keep breakable things from rolling around when they bought things, and they would cover their cold stuff from the grocery store. They would put it into a cooler that they kept in the back of their car. I mean, just to go 5 minutes from their house to the store, but whatever. They would put it in a cooler and then cover the cooler with this blanket. That's the way it was being used. And I saved it because I don't use it because it's so threadbare in places. But I do display it because she made it. And this is how it looked in its prime. This beautiful work. It's nice. And so, you know, I never thought I would have a quilt from her. Other family members do, but then they had this junk one they were just going to throw away. I was like, why would you throw that away? No, I'm taking that. So she did her quilting by hand. That's another thing I would like to do. I've saved clothes from my children growing up to use as pieces to piece together a quilt. And it would probably not be medallions or stars like that. It would probably be some kind of geometric thing, you know, like everyone's doing. But anyway, so nostalgic projects that are knitting. I'm wearing one right now. This is my Sunset Ringer tee. I'm gonna get on my knees here to show you. This is not blocked, and you'll probably see little unwoven ends. And it's kind of fitted. Okay, it's not tied at all, just so you know. This is not stretch tied on me. It is kind of a slightly fitted, kind of a baby fit tee. Remember when those were the thing in the early 2000s, baby fit? So it's also not cropped. It is a regular shirt length, but just barely. It's just barely the right length because it's Lion brand Kobu. So it's cotton bamboo, and bamboo usually grows. So I expect that it will grow. So I told you initially, when I make this, I want it to be a little oversized. I want some ease because in the summer I'm going to die if I have to wear a hot, you know, tightly fitting shirt. Here's the deal. As I knit on it and would try it on, I was like, I know, okay, I think this is going to grow. I think it's probably going to grow to exactly what I originally wanted. And it's the smallest size. I wouldn't normally wear the smallest size. But everyone said theirs came out larger than they planned for it to be, that I asked online. And I saw people comment in Ravelry. So I went with the small, and I was like, you know, if it stays like this, I can handle it. But if it grows to where I want it to be, great. Well, now I kind of want it to stay just like it is. And I haven't blocked it. I did duplicate stitch and still haven't blocked, which I may regret. But I love the look of it just like it is. So let me tell you, I don't have photos yet of it. I'm going to take some pre-block. So like I'm going to tuck all those ends in because I don't like to weave in ends until I've blocked something, which needs to be a whole episode in itself. I have 8-9 projects now that need their ends woven in. But it's summer, so all of them except for this are not really even wearable or usable right now. And that's why. Let me show you my modifications though. The first one was, she has the arms, you know, you knit and then you cast on for your underarm. You knit on down the body and then you join these two. Where the sleeve is, after you knit the sleeve, you cast on for the sleeve here. You join the body and the sleeve. I don't remember if it was a Kitchener stitch or what. I don't remember those directions because I didn't even need them. I just cast on for the sleeve. I picked up stitches. The amount that she had said to cast on, I picked those up and just knit like you would any sleeve where you pick up stitches for the underarm and knit. And I followed her directions completely, all of her numbers exactly. But no, I did one thing different. On each sleeve, I really wanted that ringer tee look. So this is a kind of a capped sleeve. And you know how back in the day, you would wear your baseball type or a ringer tee and it wouldn't billow out and then be brought in by this rolled edge. But you don't want a floppy rolled edge. It's supposed to be fitted on those type of baby tees. So I, right before knitting the edging, I reduced 3 stitches. So I just did it evenly around. Then I reversed the directions on the edging. Instead of knitting a stockinette edging and then whip stitching it under, I did reverse stockinette and whip stitch it under. That way it has the look of a seam here. I thought that was kind of cute and a little more retro even. I did it with the neckline also, but I did pick up all the stitches she said to at the neckline. I did everything for that. I didn't reduce any stitches on this. At first I thought, I want my neckline a little bigger, a little wider, just because it's summer and I'm hot and I do the Hulk when I feel impeded by clothing. But this is so cute, and this is the real, to me, the real retro look. So I think I showed you some images of OP t-shirts, Ocean Pacific, back in the day, in the 80s. You know, I have images of those shirts, Trapper Keeper, you know, Agenda, whatever, notebook binders. I think of the J. Giles Band, Freeze Frame, that song, and Painter Pants. Also velour shirts still with the painter pants. I don't know. Anyway, this is just me thinking. It's nostalgic thoughts it brings up. Kobu yarn, which is bamboo cotton for the body and the neckline. But this duplicate stitching is done with these little minis. Oh, and I don't have them. I don't have them together. They were tiny little, I showed you last week, they're called bonbons, and they're little mini skeins, and they're all cotton. So I'm thinking, okay, these two things will grow the same way when blocked, but will this grow, because it's 100% cotton, as much as this, because this has bamboo in it? Cotton doesn't grow that much. It can, but it's just a little more fixed. I went ahead and did my duplicate stitching though, because I feel like I didn't want to block the body first and then have this be, I don't know. I probably should have blocked it before doing this, but I was impatient. So anyway, duplicate stitching, all different colors, like 6 different colors. One of those colors is the same as the edging. And anyway, Lion Brand has kits on their site. I think this looks good as is. Unblocked, but of course I am going to block it. I'm just going to take some pre-block pictures, and then I might take some after blocking pictures. If it changes a lot and it's horrible, I won't document that. If it changes a lot or a little and it looks cool, well, I might document that just because, you know, it's different. So this is my little retro summer top, and it's finished. I also made it just the right length and not longer. I usually like longer, but I figured it will grow for sure in length toward the bottom. There won't be any of this to hold it in. And another thing, I thought this would, with this almost silky cotton yarn, I thought this is going to be all heavy and saggy, but it's really not. It does feel a little like an iron-on patch as far as the weight, but it's so evenly distributed over all the stitches. It's cool. I don't think it's going to look sloppy or saggy. And then you can see on Ravelry, there's tons of people who finished theirs and already blocked them, I'm sure, and they look really good. So that's fun. That's cool. Let me show you another retro type nostalgic project that I started thinking about that I actually have the Knit Picks yarn for. This came out quite a while back. It's called the Lacy Baseball Tee, and it's by Emily Kintai or Kintig. I don't know how you say it, but I'll have a link to it. So that came out several years ago, and I think it was at the end of the summer sale. I got some Knit Picks Cotton to make it. I have a piece of paper that said what I wanted to make with it. I have it stored, Lacy Baseball Tee, on my SpongeBob paper. And I wanted to do colors that made me think of my childhood. Specifically, my mother's kitchen. So, these are really retro colors. And I don't remember what color was going to be what, honestly. Whoops, something fell. I think, yeah, I have no clue. I don't know what color was going to be what was going to be the sleeves and what was going to be the stripes of the body. Probably these two are the body and this was going to be the sleeves, but I don't know. I have quite a bit of this, but I think it was left over from something else. I did a t-shirt, a Holla Knits t-shirt of some sort. They always had really good, Allison always had good, like summer Holla Knits issues or collections, and they always had really fun things to make for summer. And I've lost some of my excitement about making summer knits since that kind of stopped, but this was exciting. This was fun. So that's what I mean by nostalgia. I just like making things that make me think of other people, other times. They just have a little memory sewn into them. So I cast on, let me show you this. I think I've already shown you my finished, this is the back of my Umnia by Martin Story. The pattern isn't as clear right now because it's not blocked, but it's meant to be very textured and dotted like. This is as far as I am on the front. So I'm about to the end of the ribbing and I'm about to start the body. It's just been a while and I'm going to have to spend some time studying the pattern and remembering what I did where. Because I did some kind of modification. I was too stupid to write it down. So I'll probably be regretting that soon. I started Shannon Cook's Courage shawl. I'm really excited about this because it's worsted weight, which is easy on my wrists. I haven't had any wrist pain lately, even though I've been doing those socks on size zeros. No wrist pain. But I've been knitting a little more this week, and I thought this is something I could totally handle, worsted weight. Or DK, but it's basically like worsted. It's I'm using wool stock by Blue Sky Fibers. Driftwood, I think, is this colorway, and I don't remember what this brown is called. It is dark chocolate. And then Spin Cycles Robin's Egg colorway. And so you can see how they look. Ugh, there we go. It's just dark in here. So that robin's egg looks about like this. There we go. And that's a good idea of the colors in it. And you know what? That's a real straight, I'm using the chart. It's easy to follow. It actually could be good TV knitting if you wanted to do that. And it's nice. It makes me think of when I worked on her Bradway shawl. It was just easy on my hands. I don't have to be super crazy about gauge because it's a shawl. It can be huge, it can be a little bit smaller, and I can block it out. I think mine's going to be a bit smaller to block out, but that's cool because I'm cutting it close on some of the yardage. So anyway, that's what all I'm making. I don't really know that I had anything to talk to you guys about. Oh, speaking of crochet, I meant to tell you, I saw on one of my hashtags I follow on Instagram, this boy, you've probably seen him, at it's either Jonah's Hands or Jonah Hands. He's like this crochet prodigy, and he's made all these great motifs and blankets and everything. And he's done some Kickstarters to fundraise, and he's just kind of a big Instagram sensation, but he's a sweetheart. And follow the link to his Instagram. It's really inspiring. So I am wanting to start my crochet granny stripe blanket. Definitely want to do that ASAP. So that entire process is going to be super nostalgic for me. I can't wait till it's big enough to cover me as I work on it. I really can't think of any questions to ask you guys except we need to have a weaving an end weaving party. That's what we need to do. Let me know if y'all are interested in that, because after the next episode, if you are, let me know, and then in the next episode I'll announce it, and then we'll take a week or two and we'll tackle all those things that need their ends woven in. And if you don't have those things, then you're just morally superior to me, and maybe you can pray for me to get my ends woven in, because I've got like, I don't know, 8 or 9 things. I'm ashamed to say I knit a sweater for last winter and I didn't wear it once because it had so many freaking ends to weave in, and there were so many, there was no hide in it. I would have been in a tangle if I had pulled it over my head, and it was an awesome design. I have this big bowl, big pottery bowl thing like this, and it's full of stuff I have not woven in ends, and it's ridiculous. So I'm gonna have an end weaving party, and we'll make a hashtag and we'll brag on Instagram about all this stuff. We'll show all these things that everyone thought we finished months ago, and we'll be like, yeah, done, for real now. And you guys can join me if you want, or you can just watch me be the only person who lives like this. I hope you have a good week. Bye.